The alien fleet drifted in the silent darkness above Earth. Hundreds of ships hung like steel predators, waiting for the command to strike. Their mission was simple: observe, measure, and then conquer. Earth was marked as weak, a young world with fragile technology. For decades the aliens had watched from the shadows, mocking humanity's struggles, calling them primitive. Now they had returned with power and confidence. The planet below was supposed to be helpless, but something unexpected rose from its surface that night. At first, the aliens thought it was a storm. A wave of fire pushed through the clouds, a bright light tearing the sky apart. Their sensors began to scream with warnings, confused by strange energy readings. The fleet commanders leaned forward, eyes fixed on their screens. Shapes emerged, blazing and twisting through the atmosphere. For a moment, no one understood what they were seeing. Then silence spread across the command bridges. The shape was massive, wings of fire stretching wide, a body of metal glowing red, and eyes burning like suns. It looked alive. It looked ancient. It looked like a dragon. Whispers broke across the alien fleet. Dragons were myths, stories told to children on distant worlds. Yet here it was, rising from Earth itself, as if the planet had summoned a beast of legend. Panic grew in their voices. Is this possible? Did humans wake something that should never exist? Their commanders demanded answers, but the sensors gave none. The readings showed no natural life, no beating heart. Instead, they showed something worse: power beyond anything the aliens understood. The dragon was not alive, but it was not dead either. The creature climbed higher, leaving fire trails across the night sky. It broke free of Earth's atmosphere, wings burning like solar flares, and then it stopped, facing the alien fleet. Its jaws opened, and a sound rolled across the void. There should have been silence in space, yet every alien heard it inside their minds. A roar. Deep, ancient, filled with fury. The aliens froze in terror. This was no ordinary weapon. This was something that touched both machine and myth. The fleet tried to remain calm. Their commander spoke with forced confidence. It's only a trick. A human illusion. Their science is crude. Destroy it before it grows stronger. Orders were given, but no one moved. Fear had paralyzed them. They stared at the burning figure before them, a mix of metal, fire, and nightmare. Some whispered that it was not a ship at all, but the soul of Earth itself, awakened to protect its children. Below, humans watched from the ground. Cities looked up as the night turned red, the shadow of the dragon covering the stars. Many fell to their knees in awe. For years, humanity had been silent, suffering under the shadow of alien threat. But now, their answer had risen. The dragon was their symbol, their guardian, and their weapon. It was not just built by human hands, it was built from their pain, their rage, and their will to survive. The alien scouts moved closer, hoping to scan the creature more clearly. Their ships circled like insects, flashing lights and sensors across the burning figure. But the closer they came, the more their instruments failed. Energy waves melted their readings, data vanished, and engines stuttered under the weight of invisible pressure. One scout ship lost control, spinning helplessly until it vanished in flames. The others quickly retreated, whispering fearfully across comms. It is not technology. It is not possible. What have the humans done? The dragon moved suddenly, stretching its wings wide. The motion sent ripples across space like waves in an ocean. Its body shimmered, scales shifting from molten red to cold silver, as if alive and breathing. Its eyes glowed brighter, locking on the alien fleet. And then, for the first time, the aliens realized the truth. This was not a creature from old human legends. This was not a living beast. It was something worse. It was human invention given the shape of myth. A warship designed not just to fight, but to terrify. The commander of the alien fleet felt dread in his chest. He understood now why humans had chosen this form. A dragon was not only power, it was fear, it was fire, it was rebirth. By shaping their weapon into this image, Humans had sent a message without speaking a word. They had risen from weakness. They had turned their suffering into fire. They had been reborn. The alien fleet held their silence, waiting for the dragon to make its first move. Some believed it would attack at once, others thought it would test them first. But no one could deny the truth any longer. The humans were not weak. The humans were not helpless. They had created something that shook even the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. The dragon hovered in the darkness, its burning wings folding back. Its jaws began to glow with light, brighter and brighter, until the blackness of space shone like day. Every alien heart froze as they realized what was coming. The roar had been a warning. Now came the fire. And in that moment, as the first blaze lit the stars, the galaxy understood. Humanity had returned, and they had chosen the form of a dragon to announce their rebirth. The alien council gathered in the great chamber above their homeworld, far from Earth, but even their fear had traveled faster than light. Every channel spoke of the dragon that rose from Earth, every soldier whispered about the fire that burned in the void. The image replayed on giant screens, wings of flame spreading wide, a roar echoing through minds that should have been untouched by sound. The counselors sat in silence, their faces pale, their hearts heavy with a fear they could not explain. For centuries they had ruled the stars with iron will, crushing weak worlds and enslaving young species. Humanity was meant to be just another mark on their long record of conquest. Yet now, after all their power, they felt the touch of a legend reborn. Some tried to dismiss it as nothing more than a weapon. One elder stood, his voice shaking but sharp. It is no god. It is no beast. It is a machine, shaped to look like myth. Humanity wants us to fear it, but fear is weakness. We must not fall into their trap. His words sounded strong, but his hands trembled. Others disagreed. Another counselor leaned forward, eyes wide with terror. No machine can do what we saw. Did you not hear it? The roar carried in our minds. Our instruments failed, our fleets hesitated, and even our strongest ships fell back. Technology does not do this. Only something alive can command the soul like that. Arguments rose in the chamber, voices overlapping in chaos. Some claimed humans had uncovered an ancient power buried deep in their world. Others believed it was a trick of science, a clever disguise. But none could explain why entire fleets froze, why trained warriors felt like frightened children, why even the strongest commanders could not give the order to attack. In the middle of the chamber, the supreme speaker, the oldest of them all, raised his staff and silence returned. His voice was low, heavy, and filled with doubt. I have studied the myths of hundreds of worlds. Dragons, serpents, beasts of flame. They are always symbols of rebirth, of destruction, of power that cannot be chained. Perhaps the humans did not create this by chance. Perhaps they wanted the galaxy to remember those stories. They chose a form that would strike not only the eye, but the heart. His words chilled the chamber. The idea that humanity, once mocked as primitive, had the wisdom to turn myth into fear was dangerous. It meant the humans were no longer weak, no longer blind. They were thinking beyond war. They were shaping belief itself. Across the chamber, younger counselors spoke with anger. We must not hesitate. If we fear them, they will grow stronger. One dragon today, 1,000 tomorrow. We must crush them before they spread this terror further. But others shook their heads. Reports had arrived from the fleet. Energy readings from the dragon warship were beyond calculation. Weapons melted before touching it, shields failed before they rose, and every attempt to measure its power ended in silence. It was not only dangerous, it was untouchable. And so fear grew heavier, spreading like poison through the hearts of the council. The galaxy was vast, filled with many races, many empires, but none had ever chosen to shape their weapons into living myth. The humans had crossed a line between science and legend, and the result was something greater than either alone. Across their colonies, rumors spread. Civilians whispered in markets, soldiers in barracks, leaders in private halls. They spoke of Earth awakening something ancient, something older than their own civilizations. Some said the humans had called on forgotten gods. Others said the earth itself had risen to defend its children. No one truly believed it was just steel and fire anymore. In their fear, the council made a choice. They sent more scouts to watch Earth closely. They wanted proof, answers, anything that would show the dragon was nothing more than human technology. But deep down, they knew the truth would not bring comfort. The scouts returned with broken voices. Their ships had drifted too near, their sensors had failed again, and they swore they heard whispers in the void. One pilot shook with madness, screaming that the dragon looked at him, that it saw into his soul. The council silenced him, but his words spread faster than they could stop. The galaxy was no longer mocking Earth. It was trembling. In their chamber, the Supreme Speaker lowered his staff and spoke the words no one wished to hear. We thought humans were weak. We thought their myths were dead. But myths do not die, they wait. And now humanity has given their myth a body. They have given it fire. This is no longer a war of ships and weapons. This is a war of belief. And belief can crush empires. His words left the chamber in silence, a silence heavier than steel. For the first time in centuries, the council did not know if victory was possible. The humans had found a way to strike not only their fleets, but their hearts. And as they argued, far away in the cold of space, the dragon hovered above Earth, its burning eyes watching, waiting. It had not attacked yet. It had not spoken. And that silence was worse than fire. The dragon floated above Earth, its burning wings folding slowly as if breathing in the cold void. The alien fleets kept their distance, afraid to strike, afraid to move, their weapons armed but their hearts frozen. Humanity had been silent, but now their answer had risen in fire. The truth soon spread across the galaxy. Reports poured into the alien council chambers, into the halls of rulers and warlords. The dragon was not a living beast, but neither was it just a machine. It was something between. Its body was forged from alloys no alien had ever seen, metals fused with energy that pulsed like a living heart. Its wings stretched wide, woven with solar sails that burned brighter than any star. Its head was shaped like a predator of legend, jaws lined with blazing cannons that glowed like molten lava. And inside its core rested something the aliens could not understand, a reactor that beat like a drum, alive with rage. For humanity, this was not just a warship. It was the rebirth of their fire. Years ago, when alien fleets first came to test Earth, humanity had nearly been destroyed. Cities had burned, oceans had boiled, and millions had died under the shadow of invaders who thought themselves gods. But humans did not surrender. They did not fade into dust. They built in silence, in the dark corners of their broken world, gathering knowledge, piecing together stolen fragments of alien science. They learned, they adapted, and then they created something beyond both alien and human. The dragon was born not from technology alone, but from fury, from loss, and from a will that refused to die. The humans knew their enemies feared myths, feared the unknown, feared what they could not measure. And so they built their vengeance into the very shape of legend. Now, as the alien scouts returned broken and trembling, the truth grew heavier. The dragon was not a single weapon. It was a symbol. And symbols are harder to destroy than fleets. In the council chambers, panic spread like fire. If one exists, more must follow, cried one elder, his voice breaking. If they can build dragons, then every world they touch will fall into silence. Who will resist them? Who can fight a legend that breathes fire? But others shouted back with anger, desperate to hide their fear. It is only one. It is only Earth. Crush it before the fire spreads. Yet their voices carried no strength, for they had seen the images. They had heard the roar. Even the strongest of them could not erase the terror carved into their hearts. Back above Earth, the dragon stirred. Its wings stretched again, each movement bending light, each flare casting shadows across the stars. The alien fleet braced, expecting fire, but instead the dragon turned its head downward, toward the world it had risen from. For a moment, it seemed to bow, as if saluting the planet below. On Earth, Billions watched with wide eyes. People stood on rooftops, in deserts, in ruined cities still scarred from past wars. They watched the shadow cover the sky, and for the first time in years, they felt pride instead of fear. Humanity was no longer the prey. They had become the hunter. From hidden bunkers and underground command centers, human leaders spoke softly into encrypted channels. Phase 1 complete. The dragon has risen. The galaxy now sees us not as weak, but as fire reborn. Their voices carried determination. They had waited, planned, and sacrificed for this moment. The dragon was not just their warship. It was their rebirth, their announcement to the stars that Earth had survived, and Earth would never bow again. As the alien fleet watched in dread, the dragon's jaws began to glow once more, light spilling into the void, brighter and brighter until it rivaled the nearby moon. Then, without warning, the fire struck. A beam of light shot forward, cutting through the blackness like a sword. It did not aim for the aliens directly, but for a dead asteroid nearby. The rock shattered into dust in a single instant, exploding into fragments that burned like sparks. The message was clear. The dragon was ready. The aliens panicked, their ships scattering like frightened birds. Some tried to hold position, but their weapons felt useless, their shields like paper before a storm. Fear was stronger than orders, and soon their formation broke. In the silence that followed, the dragon roared again. No sound, yet every mind heard it. A roar of warning, a roar of power, a roar that told the galaxy humanity had been reborn. Across the stars, whispers grew louder. The humans had risen from ashes, and their fire had taken form. Empires that once mocked them now trembled, because they knew the truth. This was only the first dragon. Others would follow. The rebirth had only begun. The alien fleet circled in fear, engines humming, weapons locked but hands trembling, while the dragon hovered in silence above Earth like a god made of fire and steel. The commanders shouted orders, trying to hold their soldiers steady, but discipline was breaking, fear spreading faster than command could control. They had mocked humanity for centuries, had called Earth a fragile world, a child among stars, but now the child had grown teeth and wings of flame. Finally, one commander, desperate to prove his courage, gave the order. Attack it now, before it moves again. Fire everything we have. A storm of light erupted across the void, beams of plasma, missiles streaking fire, energy blasts tearing through the blackness of space. Thousands of weapons converged on the dragon, enough power to burn a city into ash 100 times over. For a moment, the fleet roared with hope, believing the beast would fall. But the dragon did not move. Its wings folded tight, its scales shimmered, and the fire struck its body, and vanished. The energy melted away, swallowed into the glowing scales as if the warship drank the attack like water. Missiles exploded against its hide, but the fire turned into sparks, flowing into its wings, feeding it instead of harming it. The aliens froze, their voices cracking through comms. Impossible! No shield can do that. No armor can consume energy. Yet their eyes saw the truth. The dragon was not only a weapon, it was hunger, it was fire given form, and their attacks had only made it stronger. Then the dragon moved. Its wings unfolded in a burst of light, each scale flaring like a burning sun, and its eyes locked onto the alien flagship, the largest ship in the fleet, a fortress that had led 100 battles across the stars. The flagship's commander shouted for retreat, his voice shaking, but before the order reached his fleet, the dragon opened its jaws. Light built inside, brighter and brighter until the void itself seemed to tremble. Then the beam came, a torrent of white fire cutting straight through the black. The flagship never had a chance. Its shields rose for a second before collapsing, its hull melting like wax, its body breaking apart into shards that spun away like burning leaves. Silence followed, a silence more terrifying than sound. The flagship, the pride of their empire, had been erased in less than a breath. The alien fleet panicked. Ships turned, engines flaring, but confusion tore through their ranks. Some fled at once, abandoning formation. Others tried to fight, firing desperately at the dragon, but their weapons were meaningless. Every blast only fed the monster, every strike only made its glow stronger. Within minutes, their proud formation dissolved into chaos. The dragon moved among them like a predator among sheep, wings slicing through space, its body twisting with unnatural speed for something so massive. Wherever it turned, fire followed. A smaller cruiser tried to ram it, engines burning at full force, but the dragon twisted, wings sweeping wide, and the cruiser shattered against scales harder than any armor. Another ship tried to hide behind an asteroid, but the dragon's eyes flared red and a beam cut the rock and the ship in half with one strike. The aliens had faced war before, but never terror like this. They were not fighting a machine. They were not fighting humans. They were fighting their own myths, brought to life by the very species they once mocked. And they were losing. In the council chambers far away, silence fell as reports arrived. The flagship destroyed, fleets breaking, commanders retreating. The galaxy had laughed at humans for centuries, but now those same rulers whispered in fear. What if more dragons existed? What if this was not the only one? Could any empire survive against such fire? Back in the battlefield, the dragon hovered again, surrounded by the burning remains of ships that once thought themselves invincible. It had not spoken a word, yet it had told the galaxy everything. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not prey. Humanity had been reborn in fire. The aliens who survived fled into the dark, their voices filled with panic, their pride shattered. And as they ran, the dragon roared again, its soundless cry rolling across the stars, a promise that this was only the beginning, that the fire of Earth had awakened and it would not be stopped. The first strike was over, but the war had just begun. The galaxy waited in silence after the first strike, billions of eyes fixed on the images streaming from fleeing alien fleets, images of a dragon made of fire and steel, tearing apart the proud ships of an empire that once ruled without fear. On Earth, deep inside underground command centers, human leaders watched the same battle unfold. They had waited for this moment for years, working in shadows while their enemies thought them broken, building weapons not to match alien power, but to surpass it. Now the dragon had spoken without words, and the galaxy had listened. But humanity was not finished. The time had come to send a message that no ruler, no soldier, no world could ignore. The dragon turned slowly in the void, its wings folding back as if it rested, surrounded by wreckage still glowing from fire. The remaining alien ships fled into darkness, unwilling to fight again, their comms filled with cries of fear. Then, for the first time, the dragon's jaws opened, not to release fire, but to release a voice. Across every channel, across every frequency, a sound echoed. It was not static, not alien speech, but the clear, sharp words of a human voice. You thought Earth was weak. You thought humanity was broken. But we have risen from fire. We are not your slaves. We are not your prey. We are reborn. The words carried through the stars, bouncing across relays and networks, reaching worlds that had never even seen Earth. Soldiers froze as the message struck their ears. Civilians whispered in fear, repeating the words over and over. Leaders gripped their thrones, faces pale, realizing the galaxy they had known was ending. The voice continued, calm but burning with fury. This dragon is only the first. More will come. For every city you destroyed, for every life you took, for every world you mocked, we will return that pain to you tenfold. You will never forget the fire of Earth. The council chambers erupted in chaos. Some shouted for war, others begged for peace, but all felt the same fear. If humanity had built one dragon, then surely others waited, hidden in the dark. Empires that had laughed at Earth now sent urgent signals to their fleets, ordering defenses, preparing armies. Fear spread faster than fire, because humanity had not only built a weapon, they had built a symbol that made the strongest rulers feel small. Back on Earth, crowds filled the streets as the message reached them too. People who had lived in shadows for decades, fearing the return of alien conquerors, now stood tall. They listened to the voice of their leaders, to the roar of their dragon, and they knew the truth. Humanity was no longer fighting for survival. They were fighting for dominance. The dragon's eyes glowed brighter, scanning the skies, and then it spoke again, its voice deeper, filled with promise. We do not seek to destroy the galaxy. But know this, any who dare to attack Earth will face the fire. Any who mock us will kneel. This is not extinction. This is rebirth. The age of humanity has begun. Across distant stars, alien rulers sat in silence, hearing the words. They remembered the battle, the fire, the roar. And for the first time in centuries, they wondered if their empires would survive. Some whispered in secret halls, plotting alliances to resist. Others sent envoys, desperate to seek peace before the flames spread further. But no one laughed anymore. The humans had killed their laughter with a single voice, a single dragon. In the deep void, beyond the wreckage of battle, shadows moved. The first dragon was not alone. Shapes stirred in Earth's orbit, massive silhouettes hidden in the dark, wings unfolding one by one. At first only 2, then 4, then more. Their eyes glowed faintly, their bodies shimmering like stars. Humanity's secret was revealed. The first dragon was only the beginning. The galaxy had thought it saw a myth, but in truth it had seen a fleet. And as the images spread, every empire, every world, every council realized the same terrifying truth: humanity had not risen to survive. Humanity had risen to rule. The galaxy shook as the human message echoed across every world, every colony, every fleet. Markets fell silent, armies froze, and rulers gathered in emergency halls, their pride drowned in fear. For generations, the alien empires had laughed at Earth, calling it fragile, primitive, a child among giants. But now the child had returned wearing the skin of a dragon. The words still burned in their ears. This dragon is only the first. If one could shatter a fleet, what could many do? Panic spread faster than light. On trade worlds, civilians whispered of Earth's fire, telling each other that humans had summoned living myths. On military bases, soldiers checked their weapons with shaking hands, pretending courage but fearing the roar they had heard in their minds. On the Council's homeworld, chaos ruled the chambers. Some screamed for a united war, demanding that all empires join to crush Earth before the fire spread further. Others begged for surrender, arguing that no wall could stop a storm of dragons. Fists slammed against tables, voices rose until no one could hear, and the galaxy's strongest rulers sounded like frightened children. Reports from fleeing fleets only fed the terror. Survivors described wings of burning light, eyes that pierced through shields, weapons that turned energy into strength. They spoke of comrades screaming as ships were torn apart, of captains frozen by fear, unable to give orders as the dragon devoured their armies. Some said the beast was alive, others swore it was a weapon, but all agreed on one truth: no empire could face it alone. Across the stars, alliances cracked. Old enemies whispered in secret, discussing desperate plans to unite against the humans. Yet even in those whispers there was doubt. If humanity could build weapons that looked like gods, could anything truly stop them? Empires that once ruled with cruelty now feared rebellion, for their own people asked dangerous questions. If humans could rise from ashes, why can't we? Civil unrest spread, protests growing on worlds that had been quiet for centuries. The myth of the dragon did not only terrify rulers, it inspired the oppressed. The galaxy began to change, not through war alone, but through belief. Back on Earth, the humans watched carefully. Their leaders knew the galaxy was in chaos, and they intended to use it. The dragons hovered in orbit, silent but blazing with power, each one a shadow against the stars, each one a promise of more to come. Humanity sent more messages, short and sharp, carried by the same unshakable voice. We do not seek war. But strike us, and you will burn. Mock us, and you will kneel. The age of humanity is here. Every word spread panic further. Some rulers demanded their fleets prepare for battle, but soldiers obeyed slowly, their courage broken. Others tried to send envoys to Earth, but none returned, their signals lost in the silence of space. Fear grew until even the strongest voices of the council cracked. "What if we surrender?" whispered one. "What if we beg for peace before the fire consumes us all?" But others screamed that surrender would only make them pray. The chamber became a storm of shouting, a storm of weakness. And above them all, the thought repeated like a drum. Humans had become more than a species, they had become a legend. On remote worlds, children spoke of dragons in the skies. On prison planets, rebels painted fiery wings across walls, chanting Earth's message. Even in the darkest corners of space, the story traveled faster than ships, faster than weapons. Humanity had turned the galaxy into an audience, and fear was their greatest weapon. The panic was not only political or military, it was spiritual. The empires had spent centuries crushing myths, ruling with logic and power, but now a new myth had risen, one born from fire and steel, one they could not erase. And as they argued, as they panicked, as they searched for hope, the dragons of Earth began to move again. Their wings stretched, their eyes burned, and their shadows grew across the stars. Humanity was not waiting. Humanity was advancing. The galaxy held its breath as the dragons of Earth stretched their wings, a fleet of burning giants rising from the blue world that had once been mocked as weak. Alien empires that had ruled for centuries trembled, their soldiers too afraid to face the fire, their rulers trapped between pride and terror. The humans had spoken their message, and now their silence was louder than any weapon. The dragons moved across space in perfect formation, their wings glowing like suns, their eyes blazing with promise. They did not strike at once. They did not burn worlds without warning. Instead, they appeared in alien skies one by one, casting their shadows over planets that had once laughed at Earth. On mining colonies, civilians dropped their tools and stared upward as a dragon hovered above, its roar echoing in their minds though no sound crossed the void. On fortress worlds, soldiers froze at their posts as the shape of fire blotted out the stars. The dragons did not attack immediately. They only hovered, watched, and waited. That silence was worse than fire, for it told the galaxy one thing: humanity now decided who would burn and who would kneel. In the council chamber, the rulers who once commanded with iron voices now shook with fear. Some cried for peace, begging to surrender before their worlds faced fire. Others demanded war, screaming that no myth could rule the galaxy. But none could deny the truth: they were already beaten, not by weapons alone but by belief. The myth of the dragon had taken root, and every world spoke of it. Children drew its wings in the sand, rebels painted its fire on walls, and even soldiers whispered that their gods had returned in human form. Humanity had become more than a species, they had become a legend alive. Back on Earth, the leaders watched from deep bunkers, their voices calm, their plans unfolding. Phase 2 begins, one whispered. The galaxy will not only fear us, they will obey us. The dragons spread further, one fleet heading to the core systems, another to the rim. Wherever they appeared, panic followed. Some planets surrendered at once, sending messages of loyalty to Earth before the dragons even moved. Others tried to resist, but their fleets broke before battle even began, their commanders unwilling to face the fire that had consumed their neighbors. The rebirth of humanity was not only in steel and fire, it was in control. Earth had turned fear into empire. And yet, the dragons did not destroy all. Some planets were spared, left untouched except for the shadow of wings above them. The message was clear: surrender and live, resist and burn. Slowly, the galaxy bent, its proud rulers bowing, its empires cracking, its people whispering the same words. The age of humanity has begun. On Earth, crowds filled the streets, cheering as images of dragons spread across giant screens. They had suffered under alien cruelty, had lost millions to invaders who saw them as weak, but now they were the masters. Their pain had been forged into fire, and that fire now ruled the stars. The first dragon had been their weapon, but now it was their symbol, their crown, their proof that myths could be real if forged by human hands. Across the galaxy, the Council tried to gather one last alliance, one final stand to resist Earth's rise. Fleets assembled in hidden systems, armies trained in secret, but even before battle began, their plans cracked. Spies whispered that humanity had more weapons still hidden, more dragons waiting in the dark. Soldiers deserted, unwilling to face a legend. Worlds refused to join, too afraid of Earth's fire. The last alliance collapsed before it could even strike. And so, the galaxy knelt. Not in ceremony, not in peace, but in silence. One by one, rulers sent messages of surrender. One by one, planets pledged loyalty. Not because they loved Earth, not because they respected humanity, but because they feared the dragon. Humanity had not only survived, they had risen higher than anyone thought possible. They had been ashes, but now they were fire. They had been prey, but now they were predators. They had been mocked, but now they were legends. And in the silent halls of their hidden command centers, the leaders of Earth looked at each other and spoke the final words of their plan. The rebirth is complete. The galaxy is ours. But this is only the beginning. For beyond the known stars, shadows stirred, darker and older than the empires humanity had just conquered. And as the dragons of Earth spread their wings across the void, humanity smiled, ready to face whatever came next. They had been reborn, and nothing would ever chain them again.